This conference will now be recorded.
There we go.
There you go.
Thanks very much, Aaron, for the introduction. So I'm Stuart Rose, I'm from the City of Calgary. I'm a sport development advisor with the City of Calgary. My background in sport is that obviously I'm from Scotland. I worked for the Scottish Rugby Union and Glasgow City Council in Scotland as a sport development officer, and also have a degree in sport. And then arriving in 2011 in Canada, I got a job at the City of Calgary, and I've been in this position for about 4 years. Personally, I have a background in rugby. I've been heavily involved since a wee lad, as you'd like to say, and have been heavily involved within that side of the sport as a player and also as a coach. So that's some of the background around me. Today, what I want to do is give you an introduction to the Sport Hub, and then also give you an idea of where it's looking like it's going long term, and then hopefully leave you with today with some ideas around maybe how you see yourself fitting in with it, and also hopefully develop some conversation around some of the things we've missed, and then also some of the opportunities that maybe you see, and then kind of wrap up from there. So I was really glad to be asked to come along to present, because I truly think this is the target audience for this project in a lot of ways. The LTAD was what I was asked to present on, and the good news is this is very much in alignment with the LTAD. Both from the City of Calgary, I have to deliver on policy, and part of that policy is delivering stages of the LTAD, so active start through to learn to training and active for life. In terms of you guys, I don't know who's in the room, but I'm kind of going to go off of PSOs and from that group outwards. A lot of the PSOs in the room probably have to deliver on some of the excellence model, and it's quite an important piece of the LTAD. But really, with delivering the excellence model, you really have to also be delivering on the early stages of the LTD in order to get the athletes to then move them into the excellence model. When I think of the audience for this presentation specifically, I think that you've got a really, really big job, because arguably you're kind of trying to deliver the whole model, and that takes up a lot of resources. And when we kind of pull out some of the numbers, you are kind of fighting an uphill battle here. You've 50 NSOs. Can you, Aaron, did you say something there?
No, go ahead. Just trying to fix some kind of screen a little bit.
Perfect. So when we think of how many PTSOs, provincial and territorial sport organisations there is, there's not that many compared to how many community sport organisations. So we're thinking grassroots sport clubs, and you're trying to manage all these expectations around delivering an excellence model while also delivering that physical literacy side of the piece of it. So that's some of the challenges you deal with. I'm sure there's many more: capacity, volunteers, paid members of staff. Within Alberta as well, to participate in sport, if you're trying to maximise how many people participate, we're actually the most expensive province in the country. This was from a report done in 2015 by the Canadian Communities Federation called Vital Signs, and what it said was that to participate per family for each child annually, it was $1,500, $1,400 in Alberta. We were the most expensive. And then to add to that accessibility, this is one of the sports that I actually worked in the Sport Hub. I won't name them, but they struggled to get clubs into the east side of Calgary. And when we think about parents who don't have access to transportation or even have to public transport, it's a lot of time spent in a car trying to access sport. And that's some of the problems that kind of currently exist in sport. And I'm hoping that that kind of resonates with yourself, people in the room, and people up in Edmonton. So when the City of Calgary looked at this a couple of years ago, I was tasked with trying to come up with ideas on how to start to move that needle in a way that makes sport more accessible and affordable, but also working to line up with the LTAD. So luckily, coming from Scotland, there was a model already pre-existing, and it was called the Community Sport Hub. And this is a video. It's kind of not the full video, but it gives you a little snapshot of what we're trying to achieve. And then I can kind of talk to some more of the video. So I actually cut the video short just because it kind of goes on and shows you a bunch of pictures of Andy Murray winning Wimbledon and things like that, which wasn't really necessarily needed. So we had this model, and what we wanted to do was create it or position it so that it worked for Calgary. So we had to make some tweaks, and we're also in a unique position in some ways where I think from my previous history in Scotland, some of the sport development work had already been completed. And when I looked at Calgary, some of the opportunities were kind of obvious, how to bring more groups together, how to bring the education system in line with the sport groups and sport clubs and stuff like that. So we entered into this project and, we entered into this project, there we go, in 2017 September. And the vision was pretty simple. It was health. It was getting people more active more often. It's a bit of a tagline for the City of Calgary, more Calgarians more active more often. The reason we chose health was everybody could agree. The LTAD is meant to deliver on health and get people more physically active for life and competitive for life. And it was an easy start point. From there, we got ourselves outcomes. Really, these are very attached to LTAD in a lot of ways, offering more range of sporting opportunities. So multi-sport was a kind of the basis of it, physical literacy, so then kind of components from the LTAD, bringing the appropriate partners together in order to deliver that, reducing barriers to participation. So I talked about accessibility, affordability. They were two major kind of areas they wanted to focus on. Participants had a quality sport experience, so kind of thinking what Sport for Life are doing with the quality sport checklist, and then engaging the local community and promoting community leadership. What we thought with that was that in order for a sport hub to be sustainable, we needed to have the community on board, and then in order to be, once they were on board, they had to deliver it. Well, how are we going to do that? We'd have to come up with leadership programs that already exist within the sporting structure, but also embedding them within the education system to actually start pumping out more coaches that had a pathway into the sport hub to deliver it. The elevator pitch was kind of simple. It was providing inclusive, affordable, accessible, quality sport experiences that get Calgarians more active. That was pretty much kind of the shortened version what I gave you. Once we had this in place, then we had to actually, okay, how are we going to deliver it? Well, the key was that we wanted to build a pathway that was very easy to send participants through. We started in the school. We gave them snapshots or programs in their school of the sports that were partnering with the Sport Hub, and then we would offer community-based programs, and then if they enjoyed that sport specifically, they can move into the sport club side of things. So really we were kind of targeting the whole spectrum, making the pathway as easy as possible and always kind of based around that accessibility and affordability. That was the delivery side. In order to make that happen, we needed some players in the room. The City of Calgary were there for the accountability and the funding side of things. The Board of Education was there because we needed to access the kids at the school, so we needed a collaboration agreement with them at the CB corporate level, and then we needed the provincial and local sports in order to actually deliver the programme. The City of Calgary does no delivery. It's all done by the sport organisations because we are not the experts in the room. What that looks like is, I call it school to club links. It's a stolen term. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's taken from how Scotland use their terminology. And this was Sally, your standard 12-year-old, a typical 12-year-old girl. She's come up to a transition stage where she might drop out of sport, physical activity, potentially that's what the evidence is telling us. What the Sport Hub is trying to do is engage her at the elementary, and what we're saying is we're going to get coaches, qualified coaches, to go into the school system and deliver during PE class time. So when the kids are there, they don't have a choice. They have to do PE. We come in and hopefully deliver really fun sports that are very much at the kind of almost awareness first introductory to the sport. Depending if they already know the sport, then it's kind of more maybe the fundamentals is what we're focusing on. But the whole idea is to make it fun. Then they have opportunities to after school. This is standalone from the current team systems that we do, because as soon as the junior high system starts to do teams, we're kind of entering into a bit more of that learn to train, train to train. We're saying we want all the kids that don't do that stuff. We're trying to pick up the rest of the population, because I think sport have already got a good handle on their excellence model. We're trying to get people just participate in sport and build their physical literacy opportunities. From there, Sally can then go to our local community program. It's in the community, it's free, and it's inclusive, i.e. it's open to everyone. That's the idea of this program. It's the same sports that have been delivered in the school, we then deliver the community program to make it easy to transition into something a bit more robust than just school sport. From there, if Sally really enjoys it, she can move into gymnastics or a club, a sport club. The challenge is, when we look at the sport hubs, we've chosen areas where there's lack of programme, which means there's not enough sport clubs in the area. So Sport Hub actually has to start to build or support the sports to build them from scratch. Because if we get 1,000 kids all wrestling, and then we send them to a community programme, and we get 200 kids in the community programme, where are they going to go next? Do we have to start shipping to the southeast, or the north up to the northwest? Ideally, that kind of where the program would flop. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get more membership for sport clubs, more membership for you as the PSOs. That's the idea. That's a positive outcome of this project, because then they enter a program, a system's already there. It's already very robust. And then the last piece is we want to turn Sally, if she's open to it, into a leader, community leader. It could be that she's just a volunteer, or maybe she goes all the way to become a Sport Hub community coach and ends up back in her elementary where this program started, and she's now getting the next generation physically active for the Sport Hub. So that's kind of all embedded within the program. There we go. So some of the kind of highlights from the first year, we went into a community called Martindale. Martindale was selected through information that we were given through our census data. What we knew was there was a lack of sport programming, there was a high new immigrant population, there was low socioeconomic backgrounds of certain families within that area, and then also, so think about it, underrepresented. That's what we're targeting as the City of Calgary. We're not going to the areas where they have all the programming, we're going to areas where they don't have the programming. And then we chose one school to pilot the project. Crossing Park School was a large K-9 school with 1,200 students. And these were the sports that we partnered with. I should actually say there's 6 sports, and then there's a kind of outlier over here, the Outdoor Council of Canada. That was very much outdoor education based to try and kind of provide other opportunities, not just sport specific, to see if that was also effective within the school system. They were all working together to deliver their programs. And this is kind of some of the stats that we can pull from. There's 1,350 unique participants just from the community of Martindale that took part in this project. Martindale's a small community within the grand scheme of all the communities that are in Calgary. We got an 82% participant approval rate. What that meant was we asked them, did you enjoy the Sport Hub? And they said, we really liked it, or we somewhat liked it. And what's very interesting is the 18% that were left, majority of them said the reason they didn't like it because it wasn't fun. So if we kind of connect that back to our sport checklist from Sport for Life and stuff, that fun is really at the heart of this to make it, to get people to stick to the activity. In terms of the feedback, we've got pretty positive feedback that we achieved the Sport Hub vision, which was to get people more active. The challenge is we don't actually have any hard evidence because we weren't doing a research based for the first year because it's actually quite hard to do within the school setting. It takes a lot of work to get through their ethics department and stuff. Oh, sorry, I jumped that early there. Total of 20 programs, so that was 7 programs during key class time. So every sport ran their program for 5 weeks during class time. We each done an after-school program. The after-school program was getting attendance of around about 22 participants on average, so it's actually not bad outside of school sport. That was seen as quite a win. As you go to the younger age groups, the K to 4, you get like hundreds because they're just they've got an appetite for it. In terms of the community programs, we ran 6 out of the 7 done community-based programs, and we were getting attendance around about, it was sitting at about 27. And what we saw was about 50% of the kids who were attending the community program were from the school, Crossing Park School. So we're starting to see that pathway emerge. No cost to the participant at any time. And lastly, the project cost $130,000 in total to run. Both my time, so 60% of my job was devoted to this, hard cost for the city, and then also partner hard cost and in-kind cost was about $30,000. It was working out that every time we ran something, it was costing about $4.60 per head to run, so relatively cheap. As we move into year 2, This is where we ramp it up into a full-blown sport hub, is how I kind of like to think about it. The school system has families, so think of your high school, your junior highs that feed into the high school, and then your elementaries that feed into them junior highs. That's a family is what I've been hearing the school system call it. That is LTAD right there. It takes you from active start all the way to active for life, but there's also that branch out of the high school and junior high into some of the competitive stuff. So we literally have the full spectrum to walk these kids through, all within just the school system, and they are doing it, but what we know is the elementary schools, a lot of them don't have to be specialists, so they're right off the bat, we're in the door supporting the school system to actually elevate sport as a really positive thing that the kids can associate with. All these schools highlighted here, all these bubbles, are all getting between 1 and 7 programs throughout the year. Most of them will get about 2 to 3. There's 3 there that will get 7 programs. Hi there.
We had a question from the
Yes.
from the online. So just questioning how long was the program, and then a more detailed question is how long was the pilot? It says 1 year, but it was X amount of months, seasons of play, etc.
Yeah,
or maybe you're going to get to that.
Well, no, I can just quickly answer that. So it follows the school year. September is when we launched. September 4th we launched 2017, and it stopped in June of 2018. But we didn't. We did actually have some community programs that took us into July, just because of the access to space was a bit of a challenge at that point. The program will always match the school year, but I think it ends up becoming year-round. But within that, each sport will define their own season of play. You already have that information. The idea is for me not to tell you when you want to deliver your program. The idea is to offer opportunities to make the seamless progression as easy as possible, where they get appetite for the sport in the school system. The community comes next, and then the next piece would be your season of play. So they're ramping up, and by the time the season of play has, these kids potentially have learned all the baseline skills to just walk straight into the club. I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully that kind of gives you a bit more of the information. So we started this second year, just to go over that again, in September, just the start of this month, or last month I should say. Same idea, starting there, we'll run all the way to June. For the school piece, for the community, we'll go all the way to July, and then the sport club stuff is we don't actually engage in any of, we don't tell sport clubs when they need to run their programming. That's very much down to them, and they know their seasons of play, etc., etc.
So, sorry, one more question. So, number of times per week, so that be?
Yep, so the program that's in the school runs 1 day a week over 5 weeks, and that was information provided by Everactive Schools that says we didn't want week-long blasts of a sport. Hey, you come in for a week and you just deliver for the week and then we never see you again. We wanted to see a bit more continuity. So it's 1 day a week. The coaches, 2 coaches would come into a school, deliver from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., for example, and they would maybe hit 800 kids, so all the classes, because the curriculum, the Alberta curriculum mandate, they must have 30 minutes of physical activity a day. So schools have to use their schedule appropriately to make that happen. So we got access to every kid in the school potentially to do that. And then the after school portion is an hour after school only for the kids in that school. So it's not like a generic after school, it's targeted for that school, and that's for an hour, and that runs for 5 weeks as well.
So the schools provided the blocks, and then the sports selected the block that worked for them, right? Is that how it was done?
Yeah, so what we've done, why there was 7 sports, is because if we've done it over 35 weeks. It's just simple math. 7 divided by 35 is 5 weeks. That worked out really well. Is there any science to why we're doing 5 weeks? No, that's just purely actually based off of learning that I've done in Scotland. Like, I've ran very similar programs to this, so I'm just taking them learnings and then trying to embed them. You guys as sports may have a much better feel for it, but what we know is now how to fund it. We just call it a block. 5 weeks of instructional delivery. Okay, so 1 day a week for 5 weeks, and then 5 weeks of after school, 1 day a week. So it can be a little bit confusing, and I do recognise that, but that's kind of what the premise is. It's always based over 5 weeks, 1 day a week of P class time, so instructional is what the schools call it, and then 5 days of after school program is what they're funded.
Quick question about the after school program. What was the percentage of intake for the after school program, and how did you get kids to stay, or how did you get the parents to buy into having them stay, and was it wrapped into a care program? Like, what was the...
So it's a good question. So the question was, how did we make the after school program work, essentially? So in the collaboration agreement with the CBE, it's written in there, we must have a teacher sponsor. So we get the school in there. So what happens is I go in and present to the school, say this is an awesome opportunity. We're trying to get teachers who are not part of the PE group, PE specialists, because they're overworked. They do all the sport programs, it's all the other staff that we're looking for. I go and present. They come forward to the PE specialist and say, I'd like to do badminton or whatever sport. They're in the room. In terms of the marketing, the school's very much on board, and what they do is they push out very much a simple, it'd be a kind of parent slip that goes out with information. They sign off. With some of the schools, we're getting like waiting lists with the younger age groups, but this literally the school pushes information out. We actually don't need to do any of that. That's taken on board by the school, which is fantastic because they see the benefit of the programming. In terms of the numbers, when it's the older age groups, 5 to 9, we don't see uptake as much. Well, that was one school we tested it out, and it was round about, I think they said 22 is the number. That was what we're getting. Some sports were getting 60, but some were getting 4 or 5. But the thing is, we didn't have a way to measure, and I'll talk to that a wee bit about the quality sport experience. We don't know if that's because their programming is poor or the kids just aren't interested, but we did ask the kids what after-school programs they went to and did they enjoy and why did they not go. So we have more of that information. I've just not embedded it in here. But really, what we know is that we need to get some objective way to get a quality measurement in there to understand when a program is going well, why is it going well, and if the kids are telling us they enjoy it, why are they enjoying it, and then we can start to connect them dots and that'll make it a bit more robust. For right now, we're just gathering information, if I'm being brutally honest. We don't know the real kind of nuances to why people are attending the programs. So is that helpful? Is that?
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering if it was like parents used it as an opportunity to get childcare, or if
oh yeah,
or and if there was parent buy-in, like if they wanted their kids to be there after school, or if it was difficult to get them to stay after school, just
so the,
really high level.
Yeah, so the community is very much, I would say, based on my learnings, sport comes secondary or last. Education is first and sport comes last. That would have been one of the pieces. So what I'd done was I would go out to the school. I went out 5 times and done events and promoted the sport hub, the parent like teacher, parent conferences and stuff, and I would talk them through that kind of stuff. So that would basically alleviate some of their questions. That was very helpful. I found that we did get a good uptake after we'd done them events. So that was part of it. It's a lot. There's time involved, and that's something that we've budgeted into kind of our future budgets, is we need to do events as part of the school system.
But there wasn't an actual after-school program. It was just offered like when the sports were there.
Yes,
right?
correct.
So then the parents would look and say, "There's field hockey this week," and there's okay. So it wasn't
it's all
like
interconnected.
part of that, but it was that was a new thing for the school. It wasn't
Definitely.
like you were just adding the sport into an existing after-school program, right? So that's
Brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new. Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't pick up on that, but that was yeah. Lynn, you have a question?
No, I'm listening. It's fascinating.
Good to hear. So just to kind of go back to what we're doing this year, we have 13 sports at the table. They will all be delivering a community-based program. So that will be the next kind of section to try and basically blanket. There's 6, we're going to be delivering to more than 6,000 kids, and they're all going to get touched by the Sport Hub in some manner. They're all going to have access for branding and marketing to the community programs. So we're expecting the numbers to really jump up there. And then finally, that's just a cricket. It's not cricket specifically, but some of there's some sports that I've identified they don't have clubs in that area. Wrestling, for example, they are going to look to start to build capacity to try and get a club set up, and we will support them through the Sport Hub to do that. How we'll do that is going to be covered in these couple of slides. So this is when you start to now kind of take a step back and go, what is a Sport Hub? This is simply it. It's the delivery mechanism, which is the schools, community and sport clubs. That's the blue circles. They're delivering the program, the actual boots on the ground, and they're supported by the delivery support, which is all the frontline staff, like PSO administrative staff, and maybe City of Calgary staff, PE teachers, all the pieces that go into actually making the delivery happen. So that's kind of your model, and then they're buffered by the quality sport experience. So what that means is if they ever are unsure of what is being delivered. Quality sport experience kind of incubates that to say, this is what we're trying to achieve, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we objectively measure if we're doing it, plus also training and mentorship. What we try and do, and it's the first year we're doing it with Be Fit for Life and Sport for Life, is that we train the coaches and the administrative staff, we mentor the coaches when they're on the ground, and then we'll have a measurement tool that will basically evaluate quality sport experience. And I'll go into quality sport experience some more. And then finally we have work that I need to complete, which is the resource pillars. And what that is some of these sports comes back to capacity. Some PSOs have a lot of capacity and they can maybe support a new sport club in the community starting from scratch, and they have resources to support. Volleyball is a great example. They've got a great website and it tells you how to start a new club. Other sports, however, do not. So what we want to do is try and walk them through and put all the basic things in place, kind of like club excellence, but it's pre-club excellence, to get them to a point where they can then enter into the sport hub. And I'll go into that in more detail. For quality sport experience, this is very wordy, but this is from the policy that I have to align with through City of Calgary. This is our Sport for Life policy, a definition of quality sport experience. This was just passed in council in June, policy, and this definition is from UNESCO. So we went kind of high up there. Sport for Life, I'm pretty sure we were able to write this. And there's 8 key outcomes that we pulled out of that we want to deliver on as part of the quality sport experience. In order to do that, we tried High Five Quest. That's the recreation tool that we have in-house for the City of Calgary. It didn't fit the bill. No surprises, but we tried it out anyway just to see if it would do it. So this year, as we enter into our second year, we're working with Sport for Life through the quality sport checklist and just that piece of work, and then also Ever Active Schools. Why we want all these players in the room is so that this quality sport experience can talk to everybody. We're not trying to duplicate work. What we're trying to do is say, what do we already have? How can we manage that? And how can we make it objective when we go into the school, so it's not Stuart Rose going in there and going, oh, your program isn't that good. It's actually, we can walk away and say, this is a fantastic program. The reason Alberta Education is there, at the end of the day, most of our target audience is in the school. We want to tell the school, we've got this fantastic program for you, it aligns with your curriculum, and we can say it's quality. And then we have the NCCP gang, or Coach.ca gang. They've not been engaged. I've done an early engagement with Jason. We used to have a conversation a long time ago, but they're actually at the front end. What we need is all the coaches, no surprises, to the NCCP qualify before they even go in the door into the schools, and that was part of the agreement. We committed to doing that. But really what we're trying to do is make this as holistic as possible and see where the gaps are, and then fill the appropriate gaps with the appropriate partner as we move forward. As I say, this is in development. By the end of this year, so I reckon by June of this year, we'll have a tool that we can use. In terms of the pillars, as people, partnerships, and places, these are just kind of some of the areas that we'll look to provide resources. And we're not delving in any depth, but what we're trying to do is provide all the basic tools to get a new sport club or even a new sport hub started, right? Because at the end of the day, when we get it long term, we get the communities to run these programs. We need them to be able to feel comfortable that when they have a challenge, they know where to look for the answer, and we provide the answers. Another way to think about that is if this is our glass and the sports system is this full glass, the sport hub is going to deliver the first 30% for all the resources. What we're going to do is we're going to provide the opportunity for community sport clubs, could be recreational sport providers or even senior sport groups, to get to where they want to go at the base level. Once they start to get capacity and they say, you know what, we actually want to become a bit more competitive in nature, that's when we start to engage other partners, the PSOs, Alberta Sport Connection, and other partners named there. Or maybe you want to become an elite sport group. I think of hockey and all these elite hockey leagues and stuff like that. That's when it kind of steps out of our paradigm and moves into other groups. And that could be tools like Club Excellence and Sport-Specific Excellence programs. So what we're trying to say, we're not going to, you guys know your sports, you know your LTAD models, you know all of your challenges. What we're trying to say is we're going to work with you to try and build capacity to address some of them. And then finally, at the end, it's just the higher up kind of excellence piece of the model. And really, I think that we will never be, City of Calgary will be delivering any of that side of things for facilities. So that's why we have the support pillars there. And to connect it all back, the Sport Hub is meant to be, you can replicate it. So once you do it one place, you can then do it in multiple other areas. It doesn't need to just be in a city, it can be other cities, it can be in smaller municipalities or even in towns and things like that. But they're always kept in check, as I like to say, by quality sport experience. And what that means is that that's your either endpoint, hey, we want to get into the Sport Hub, or you mean a quality sport experience, yeah, you are perfect, onboarded. Or if you're in the Sport Hub and say, for example, you start to become highly competitive, you start turning away kids and it kind of doesn't fit the vision of the Sport Hub to get people active, maybe you no longer are meeting that quality sport experience, maybe that's time that you've got another market that you might want to start to deliver, and that's a good chance for you to step out. And then round that, everybody can pull from people, places, and partnerships. They're just pulling that information when they need it to make their own Sport Hub more robust. And also it's an opportunity to exchange information, because as we know, I think we can all agree that sport can be a little bit siloed, even within sports, and then sports beside other sports, we silo ourselves. We end up repeating a lot of the same work, but we kind of do a little nuance and go, that's different, that's how we do it. And what we're trying to say is let's just find the key components of it, pull that out, and allow that to be work that just sits within the Sport Hub that you can just pull from regardless if you've created that information or you just need that information to use it to move forward. So this is kind of an easier way to look at it. You have quality sport experiences, the building blocks. You have your sport hubs that are kind of drawn from the quality sport experience, and then they're also drawing from people, place, and partnership. The last piece that's missing is the systems level support. So think of the big players. These are much more, natural sport hubs are more like your front line. Systems level is your education, your sport, your health, your recreation, and then kind of other than big providers. And what that is just trying to get an advisory committee type concept together, and that's what there will be kind of almost a separate project, is how I believe that will look, that is then going to allow the whole system to move forward, the Sport Hub to move forward, and then as other tactics come off of the Sport Hub or the advisory committee, they can always kind of bring it back to a common goal, and then that common goal might be only functioning for health, for example. They may only go, we only need one outcome from this, we just need to get people more active. But sport might be them saying, we're delivering all the outcomes, we are invested in all the outcomes, and that's kind of the work that needs to be done as we move forward to the future. What that means is that the vision might change, and this was actually Leah, luckily enough, that came up with this, and I actually really liked it. It spoke to me, taking this first vision and then maybe adapting it to something that's more broader. And really, I think that this talks to a lot of us. Engaged, well, Lynn, getting parents engaged is really important. Getting people to know about the LTAD, understanding physical literacy, that's a really important piece of this puzzle. Then getting them connected to sport groups, connecting them to new leadership opportunities, getting them connected to their community, or just sports connecting with each other. With the nice outcome, people are getting more active. That's either through the active for life stage or at the excellence model, regardless. You know, it's up to people. It's more choice for people, is really what it is. And so to finish up the presentation, really, as I kind of started with, the key things of this project are, this is in the very early stages, this is in no way complete. And what it is we're looking for opportunities to hear your thoughts and where you see the gaps, but also the question back to you is, where do you see yourself fitting this? Do you see yourself fitting in this? Because that ultimately, as I say, is a collaboration model. We are not the ones delivering it, it's you guys, but we're just there to support and make it moving forward. And with that, thank you very much for listening to the Sport Hub presentation. And if there's any questions, please ask away. I think I went a wee bit over time there.
Very good. So there's technically 17 minutes left. So I'm sure we should be good. I don't know if you want to, maybe we'll see if we can go back and forth and see if there's a question out of Edmonton. So there's a group in Edmonton sitting very similar to you, very nicely around the U-shaped table. Maybe we can hear some questions from them, and then we can ask some questions in here.
Can we get quick round of introductions? Or do you know who's there?
yeah, maybe maybe we could do introductions. That'd be good. Aaron, can you introduce the people that are there?
For sure. Actually, we'll let them introduce themselves. But if anybody could please speak up and use your outside voices as per our technology. So we'll go around the room. I'm Aaron Laverato. I work for Alberta Sport Connection, and I'm a community baseball coach.
Hi, I'm Taylor Stiles with Football Alberta, and I hope you're enjoying the snow down there.
Sebastian with Triathlon Alberta. I'm Winston with Triathlon Alberta.
Barb with Athletics Alberta.
That was Barb with Athletics Alberta.
Lindsay with the Be Fit for Life Network in Edmonton Center.
George Maltbacke with the Edmonton Sport Council.
Vicky Parker, Sport for Life.
You want to go with our questions now, or do we want to go around everybody?
Sure, why don't we do around here? Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Lynn, you can go ahead and start.
Lynn Jobe, Active for Life.
I'm Kristen from the University of Calgary Active Living, and I'm a community sport coach.
I'm Chris Abdallah. I'm from ADRA, which is Alberta Sports and Recreation for the Blind.
Linda McPhail, also with ASRA.
I'm Arthur Huff, Squash Alberta, provincial coach.
Reed Dolan with the Alberta Sport Development Center, Calgary.
Leah Wayne, Sport for Life.
Excellent. We have a few online. I can't see everybody's, but I can see Denise Fisher, Claudio's always on. Gary is on. Leah Yardley is on. Pat from Lawn Bowls is on. Rob, I'm not quite sure if you guys want to just enter in the chat box where you guys are from. We'll be able to announce you.
Great. So is there a question from the Edmonton folks, or should we start down here, or what do you want to do?
I have a question. I can get it started. We have a lot of PSOs in the room. I think a lot of the PSOs have tailored try it programs, whether it be flag football programs from Football Alberta, or a run, jump, throw, wheel program from Athletics Alberta, or try it programs from other associations. How do we get you guys connected together? Or are you guys looking for new sports, or how does that all work for you, Stu?
Yeah, no, good question. So right now in the year 2 of this project, we have reached the capacity mostly under the budget for delivery. But as this grows, just to kind of premise what we're trying to do is we believe that we need to deliver more of these around Calgary. So right now what we're doing is we're looking for budget or funders to bring that program to more areas of the city. The key piece for us, just as a caveat, is that the City of Calgary, will be delivering this project to underrepresented. That's our target audience, and I kind of spoke about that in the project. But we will need many partners in the room. The key is right now, up to this day, it's been very much, I had no way of deciding what sport gets in and what sport doesn't. So I asked the schools, because it was easy. Hey schools, what sports would you like to see? As we move forward, we do know that there's going to have to be an objective way to select who's ready, who's not for the sports system. But for right now, what I think is important, if we just connect, if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can. For more details, there's a good chance that most sports will fit into this bubble of delivery, and then it really just comes down to available resources, and then where's your target audience? Because as I was talking to with that underrepresented piece, actually I have Arthur in the room from Squash Alberta, and speaking to him and the ED Tim, the question back to them was, when we were talking about this, is where are your priority areas as squash? Because there's no point putting squash up in the northeast if there's no squash courts. Same to all the other sports. Where are your priorities? Where do they align your strategic plan? And where do you want to build your strong areas within the city? Because if you know that information, and then we overlay the sport hub areas that the City of Calgary want to deliver in, what we hope we'll see strong connections in certain areas, say for example the southeast around the Ogden area, You might say that's a really big target area for us, and we'll say, great, that's a target area for us. This seems like a good fit. But if you're just like, hey, we just want to deliver it for the sake of just being on the project, don't get me wrong, that's a great way to kind of get your sport out there and start to build the roots of it. But really what we're asking is be a bit more strategic than that, and come to us and tell us, these are our key target areas within the geographical area of Calgary. Do they align with where you're going? And then, that puts us under pressure to come back with some hard answers and say, yes, it does. So that's kind of where we want to go with it. Are we there yet? Definitely not. So that does definitely allow for you to just get in touch. Let's have a conversation, and then let's kind of look at this moving forward. Because really, the more sports in this, the merrier, because it's the more collaboration, things like that, resourcing.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions up in Edmonton?
No, doesn't look like it's,
What
we're
current
good.
sports? What current sports? I know that it looked like there was 6 in the pilot project, and then I think you mentioned 13.
Yeah. So we have lacrosse, football. We have the Be Fit for Life group are doing their move and play program for the K-4 group. Then we have rugby, gymnastics, and ultimate frisbee. And these were all selected by the school system, so it wasn't me kind of picking my favourite sports or anything like that. Field hockey were in the original, field hockey were in the original. So if I take a step back and I look truly at the LTAD, what we have is the full gamut of all the age groups, K to 12. It's another kind of to the question around how do we get in touch, how do we start moving this forward if we're not already on board. Really, it'd be great for you to think about, well, who are your target age groups? And how are you, so athletics, for example, I had a good conversation with that group, and they're a group who really think that they should be getting in the younger age groups because they have the run, jump, throw, wheel, or their mini legends program, and they can start to really embed some of them fundamental movement skills that then will support a lot of the other sports as these kids move through that age group. So they're kind of saying we kind of want to focus on the younger age groups. Whereas some sports may say we actually want to focus on the older age groups, and it's starting to also get an idea when you come forward to enter into the model, where do you fit best within this model? Because right now, a number of the sports can't actually answer that question very well, and what ends up happening is I just throw them in the deep end and say you're delivering to K-4, field hockey. It doesn't necessarily always make the most amount of sense, but for right now, we just want to get momentum. But as we move forward, it's really sports taking that step back and going, well, if athletics are going to teach them all the basic movement skills, maybe we don't need to do that stuff. Maybe we work just with the racket-based sports or the other, like lacrosse, and we come up with a really robust model that really just focuses in on them kind of movement skills. And then that can just be alleviating a lot of the time and effort spent. And as I say, 6,000 kids just in one sport hub, and that's not even with the Catholic school district there or the separate board. So if we start to blanket all, then we're talking well over 10,000 kids. And the key piece of this is, at the end of the day, we want to get more membership at sport clubs. We want to see PSOs and more membership, 10,000 kids. Even if we each take 10% of that, we're probably going to be all able to get kids to our sport. We're not going to struggle for numbers, but as long as you're delivering an appropriate program, that's the important piece of this. If you're not aligning with the LTAD and you're just going straight in with 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds or whatever with the wrong type of programming, most likely they're going to say it wasn't fun. You might not see the uptake. But that's for you guys. That's your kind of piece of this puzzle. Because I'm kind of not there. I'm there to just build out the model. Hopefully that was the answer, a bit more in depth than maybe you were looking for, but hopefully I answered the question.
And then just think if we get the Olympic bid, how exciting that would be. Oh, that was like.
So actually that's an interesting point of this is actually a legacy model for the 2014 Commonwealth Games. Sports Scotland came forward to, Scotland in theory and said, this is a model we're going to use on the back of the Commonwealth Games to put as a legacy model. So it's completely relevant for us right now with the 2026 Olympics, that's the whole concept. It has now been running, and their target by 2020 in Scotland is to have 200 sport hubs. They're already at 186. They have some hard figures to show that it's working. They've seen a 5% increase in participation for all age groups in the school system. So literally they've seen participation in physical activity increase by 5%. So there's some really positives from my side with the City of Calgary, but then that actually translates to more membership, and they've seen membership numbers just bounce right up, volunteer numbers bounce right up. So I forget you guys are in the room.
Stuart, do you plan on moving to other quadrants of the city?
Yeah. So the question from Arthur was, do we plan on moving to other quadrants? Definitely. We don't know right now how this model fits. There's some hard questions that we have to answer. Is it the City of Calgary run it? Is it a partner that runs it? So these are questions that we are asking in-house. And then how much does it cost? So what we are doing right now, by March, our target is by March of next year, we have a sport hub packaged up. One sport hub costs this to run with this amount of blocks, this amount of resources that are attached to that sport hub. Once we know that number, and then we can go to funders, then we know how many sport hubs we can move in the rest of the site. But yes, it definitely is meant to be replicated in other parts of the city.
Because we're at Scotia, really would like to get into schools, but we're finding it really difficult to just go and ask schools and deliver the support. Apparently we're not allowed to go and ask the principal or whatever. It's got to be, the parent might say, you know, how about we go to Scotia to come in, or the coach come in and deliver it. Because ultimately we like to get more kids into clubs, right? Eventually. Yep. So if that sports hub is not an area where there's squash courts.
So good question. So the question from Arthur was, sports when they go on their own, not under the guise of the sport hub, in other areas of the city of Calgary, are being told by the education system, don't go and talk to the principal teachers directly. So they have a hard time of getting into the school system. The idea of this under the collaboration agreement is that with the Board of Education and all the boards, once we move forward, is that sports can go elsewhere outside of where the City of Calgary are hitting. This is going to be a key component. This is actually brought forward by the Calgary Board of Education. They thought that this was the best way to do it. You would just fall under the sport hub because you would be delivering a quality sport experience and you'd meet all the check boxes. And we would be the entry point. We, the sport hub, would be the entry point for you to get into other areas. But ideally, if you're targeting other areas, you would be sitting down with other sports to say, hey, do we need another sport hub out with the City of Calgary funded sport hubs in the Acadia region or the Shaughnessy area? And that's kind of what we are trying to develop, as well as if you want to build your own sport hub out, hey, here's the package. You just need to align with quality sport experience and the mission and vision and the outcomes. So have we put that into practice yet? Definitely not, but there is going to be opportunities to work through these nuances, and that's kind of that systems level approach, getting people from the Board of Education into that advisory committee, and then rather than me or you having to go and talk to every principal on their own, it's getting a push, it's coming from top down. Hey, Sport Hub is a recognised programme. When you get the opportunity to come in on your doorstep, you should probably take it, is the idea.
So we probably have time for one more question. We're wrapping up our hour here in respect of everybody's time. Anybody else have one last question?
I got a question, sir. Did you get any feedback from the participants or your partners around them not wanting to progress to sport clubs, but just to stay within that community engagement where they go from introduction in school to community after school and then stay in community after school at once a week versus a full transition to a club performance?
So the question from Reed was, did we get any feedback from the participants regarding do they even want to progress into the sport club system, or and maybe they preference actually just staying at the community level? So the short answer is no, we did not ask that specific question, but what we done was we asked them, are they likely to go and take part in community-based program? We never asked them. So the piece of the puzzle was there's gaps in collection of data. We need to do a much better job with that. Where we've aligned our feedback from our survey with the children is actually general population stuff with Stats Can. And that's because of the need to deliver on our accountability through the policy through City of Calgary. That's kind of the connection part. But these are the kind of questions that will become available to ask. But for right now, all we did was say, would you take part in a sport hub or recommend a sport hub to somebody else? And we didn't go into any depth in that conversation. So that might be something that we could definitely open up. And it's probably a question we want to ask, especially at that community level. We never got feedback, only one sport done feedback at the community level. So that's something we're going to address this year to try and understand some of these questions. But maybe we should take that offline and talk about that, because these are the kind of pieces of information that we want to collect. And just to talk to a bigger data collection piece of this, question that came out of a conversation that came out with the corporate people up at CBE, our Calgary Board of Education, is the opportunity to track participants along the whole movement through the education system. And a simple way to do it was suggested, although this is not, like, don't be taking this forward because they may shun this, but they says you could just use the last 5 digits of the Alberta curriculum education each have a unique number. And there's enough of an identifier within the last 5 digits that you're going to get very minimum duplicates. And what that would mean is, and this is something that I've been kind of kicking around my head, we could ultimately track a kid for 12 years. Because what we could do is watch them, and when they come to a community program, they have to write down their last 5 digits. When they go to a sport club, they have to give us the last 5 digits. But there's no foible information necessarily attached to that. But what we could do is watch them travel their way through the sports system, where they drop out, where they come in, and all these kind of pieces of the puzzle, which to me was very interesting. Is it like set in stone or easy to do? Definitely not. But hopefully then matching up with some of the feedback questions around, do you even want to participate in the sport club? Then it's almost the proof's in the pudding. Hey, we're only seeing a 10% change from school and community into sport clubs. At least that tells us the information and resource it better. But that's like a blue sky dream type thing. But I was really interested when they brought that forward. So one of these opportunities.
Excellent. Well, as we wrap up, I'd just like to say, Stu, thank you so much for bringing the good message from Sport Hub today. Please reach out to Stu if you have any other ideas or thoughts or follow-up. I would like to thank Jason down in Calgary for hosting. Thank you for making it through the weather down there, as well as thanks everybody around the table for participating today. And thank you to Leah at Calgary and Vicky in Edmonton for being such great Sport for Life reps. And I just wanted to say that in November we have another great example of collaboration that we're going to showcase, and that's called Orange Marks the Spot. It's an initiative between Alberta Orienteering and Be Fit for Life Network, showcasing the power of that collaboration. So, and one last thing, other than the get involved in the Parents in Sport Week across the country, I received a survey this morning. I know we get a lot of surveys in our industry, but it's important that we provide the data back to decision makers, and that is the engagement on recreational sport. So it's a Sport Canada survey, and I will be passing that along. Vicky, do you want to add anything on that front?
No.
Just do it.
Do it.
Do it. Okay, take the time to do our surveys. I know they can be a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways, signing off. Thanks so much, guys, and please visit our Sport for Life page for the meeting information leading into November. Take care.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.